All right, Erik, I'll jump in, I guess. Just given how well you guys played and how you didn't play as well going into the break, what do you kind of see as the keys from, the player standpoint, the manager standpoint, the president of baseball operations standpoint to kind of get back to where you were playing?
Yeah, like a 2 week amnesia pill. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. I think, if you take our first half or up to the All-Star break in its entirety, I think we're a little below the pace that we were expecting out of this group, but perhaps not tremendously off. But we started slow and couldn't get it going, and felt like this was a group that was going to build steam as it went along and as it started to gel, and we saw that and played as well as anybody for a prolonged stretch, and then hit a few weeks here uh, leading into the break where it felt like just no matter who was out there late in the game, we just couldn't find a way to hold a lead when we had them and weren't able to separate games enough to give more breathing room down the stretch. And it brought us back to earth a little bit. So, in terms of the second half, I think, often in baseball, when you go through a tough stretch, the best part of it, you get to get out there the next day and play another game and forget about it. But um, probably the break coming when it did wasn't the worst thing for us, just to create a little bit space from a disappointing road trip, disappointing couple weeks, tough couple weeks in terms of some games lost. So getting to the other side here, look, for the four guys in the All-Star game that, Brandon wasn't able to play, but those four guys there, the way the three that did participate represented us, provide a strong reminder of the talent of this group and I think what we're capable of. And we got to come out the second half and play a lot closer to where we were for that stretch from mid-May through the end of June than the last couple weeks here. So, like we got to come out tomorrow and forget that road trip ever happened and play like it didn't and see where it goes from there. It's certainly a big four series into the end of the month and the trade deadline itself.
Just how so, though, I guess is what I was trying to ask
Oh,
you.
that's a lot of words to not even answer your question. Shoot. Sorry, so what's your
So,
question? How?
how so? I mean, obviously better relief pitching, but what else do you think you guys need to do to get back to that level of play?
Yeah, I mean, score more runs than our opponent in most of these games. When we were playing well, we were scoring a lot of runs, we were preventing runs, and things were timing up really well. When, we gave up four, it seemed like we'd score six. If we gave up seven, didn't happen very often, we'd score 10. When we were down 8-0, we'd find a way to come back and do that. And then things just got a little bit out of sync. But yeah, look, a bullpen and an assortment of arms that I think are much more capable than providing more quality work than what they did over these 2 weeks. I think that's undeniable, even if you just took what they were doing earlier this year before that. I think we'll see better work. The starters need to stay healthy, and continue to do what they've given us to this point. And I think offensively, look, those 6 weeks were really good, about as good as we've seen since the beginning of 23. And to assume that they're going to carry that level of production and come up with a hit every time there's a runner in scoring position, like that's not likely. But they are capable of scoring more runs and performing better than we did these last few weeks. So, um, so what are we going to see? I think we're going to see good starting pitching. We're going to see the bullpen, get back to, I think, an accustomed level of ability for those that have it. And, Junior, Aranda, the guys that taken the big step forward this year, continue to maintain that progress while the veterans continue to do what they're doing.
Eric, you guys got a little bit of a jump on the trade stuff with Baker, but just kind of given how tightly packed the AL is and where you stand in it, how much will these next 2 weeks kind of determine what you do leading up to the deadline?
Yeah, there's a lot of belief in this group. We've talked about that throughout the year, and this has been a tough stretch, obviously. But one where, we haven't been getting smoked. We're not losing big. We're not getting crushed by our opponents. We've been in just about every game. And so on one hand, it's been really difficult emotionally because that's been the experience that's led us to this 4-14 stretch, whatever it is. On the flip side, um, if you want to look at the silver lining in that, I think it's that you've dropped 10 under 500 over the stretch, but in games that have all been competitive and you have a chance to win. And when you zoom out far enough, usually that's indicative of the kind of team you have. If those are the kind of stretches that beat you, um, you got a pretty good club more often than not. Now we got to go out and do it. And our record, we're 3 games over 500. So no matter what we think of our club, that's our current reality. We're a game and a half out of a wild card spot. And we got to make up some ground. And so there's a belief in this team, but like I said, you got Baltimore, Chicago, Cincinnati out of the break, and then four in New York. These are really big games that will have some sort of influence on our decision making as the month draws to a close.
A couple of injury things that were kind of outstanding from the break. Is Bilal, there was hope to be short term. Is that still the expectation on your
Yeah,
end?
I think so. We got to work out here in a little bit. I'm over at Steinbrenner now, but I've been in the offices, so I don't have a full download. I think he's going to get a little work in today, and we'll gather some feedback on where he's at. The expectation is short term, whether or not that means he's active tomorrow or not. Want to run through the day, and then I'm trying to think. Go ahead if there's others you want to hit on, but
Manny, I think, was supposed to get seen on Monday.
yeah, that one's probably going to be a little bit. I need to connect with our medical staff just to get the latest here, and have been sensitive to with the break to not pepper people too much, but not one that's going to be returning to us anytime soon. It looks like here.
Right. And then on the other hand, Shane, is he still good tomorrow in Durham? And
Yep.
what's kind of been the word out of the
That
recovery?
that's my understanding. Look, everything about the injury, has been, the whole rehabilitation's been unique. He's doing well, in good spirits, um, kind of managing his throttle as he gets back on the mound and continues to build. You guys have seen that. But I think he's doing well. The feel for the pitch is the changeup, which often can be the most important field pitch. Looked really good with Durham his last outing. So he'll take the next step. If he's efficient, the innings are clean, the work's clean, then our hope is a third up there, and he'll have that opportunity. We'll just keep building from there. But the feedback I've gotten is positive, and that's certainly one where if it wasn't, I would have been interrupted over the last few days to hear that. So we're going the right way there.
Yeah,
Erik,
along those lines, could you just explain the transaction today too?
Um,
Gerber.
oh, thank you. Yeah. I thought you were on McClanahan still. I'm like, you gotta explain it to me. Yeah, procedural move that just, the guys have the upward mobility clauses at different points in the year, and in this particular case led to us adding him to the 40 man. Joey's somebody that, has missed a little time to injury, but we like the ingredients like the fastball, and somebody as we continue forward here will be in our mix for opportunity as we go.
Erik, just so I'm clear on what you said earlier about these next 2 weeks of games being important and how that may affect your decision making, are you saying that you could go from buyers to sellers or somewhere in between, depending on what happens in just these last 2 weeks, or are you going to make a run for this no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, I look, I has have I think have always said and acted, for better or for worse at times. The closer we are to the division, the more that's within reach, or the more you have a chance to win the division, the more aggressive that will be when it comes to the season in hand. If you win a division, the odds of getting that first round bye, so to speak, go up quite a bit. Two of the three get it. And that's a meaningful advantage when you're trying to win a World Series to skip that initial round. So it's more there. The expectations for this group, the belief in this group, the starting pitching we have, getting Ha-Sung Kim back, hoping like heck, Bilal will be quick here to return after the break, and we can see the position player group largely the way we envisioned it. Johnny DeLuca is going to get to Durham here. Just another option there that'll be in the mix. Shane McClanahan coming back. Like this is a good team. But we need, in terms of just kind of how aggressive I think we're likely to be, that'll be affected some by our wins these next couple weeks. I'd like to think that just about anything I think this group's capable of over these few weeks will lead us in a position where we're looking to, at least improve, somewhere on the roster, if not significantly so, but got to go out and play well and win. If we don't, or if we have a stretch the way we had the last couple weeks, going into the break, yeah, that comes with all sorts of additional questions that I'd much rather not think about, and um, would prefer to stay on the optimistic side of what this group's capable of.
Erik, all things being equal, do you envision the use of your starters staying similar outside of obviously what we saw from Drew the last couple of starts?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one we'll continue to talk about. Drew's been as critical to our success as anybody, with what he's done, and we just need to make sure that we can balance that against, making sure he's available for us down the stretch as the games get more and more important. So that's why you saw that. You got a few guys that are going to get into some uncharted territory with their innings. Shane Baz, given his multi-year history, it's something we'll probably think about and keep an eye on. But a lot of this is, there's no magic number, there's no percent increase. The more we study this and learn about this, so much of it is about how they're bouncing back, how they're holding strength. You're most compromised, most at risk of injury when you're fatigued. And there's more ways to keep an eye on that now than there was even 3, 4, 5 years ago. So just making sure that the work between starts, the way they're bouncing back, is strong. And as long as it is, then I think we'll continue to be able to move things along the way that we have. Obviously, Shane coming back, if that comes back, and he's full go, you hope that's a few weeks away from now. If all goes as planned, that'll lead to some decisions about what you do, and maybe that's a way to try to take care of a few of these guys without sacrificing quality. Those are things we'll get to. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Joe Boyle certainly throwing the ball the way he did, warranted greater opportunity, and we were able to take care of Rass while also getting Joe some opportunity, and he did a nice job with it. So as long as we have the options available, we can take care of guys and not sacrifice quality. We'll probably look for ways to do that. But we got to make sure we're winning games in front of us and don't put the cart too far ahead of the horse too.
Erik, you mentioned DeLuca. Is he starting Durham tomorrow?
Yeah, I believe so. My days are a little this way and that, but yeah. If it's not tomorrow, I believe he's going up there and should be in the lineup tomorrow. But I'm call it 95% certain, not 100. I'll get that update here in a little bit.
And then the last injury one I don't think we mentioned was Palacios. What's
Yep.
his status?
Yeah, he's doing well. Sometimes the nature of these injuries, it's healthy, but there's a small percentage of them that experience it that just they don't they're healthy, but they don't have their burst right away, right? And it takes a little bit longer for reasons that aren't totally clear. And unfortunately, he's in that group. So he's running well. We're making progress on getting him back, getting that explosiveness back, which is such an important part of his skill set and his profile. Feel like we're just about there. Just one of those, like, we got to make sure we do it right. Feel for him having this freak injury twice, in the last 12 months, and it feels like we're getting close, and he's absolutely getting more explosive than where he was a few weeks ago when we had to pull him in, and just kind of day to day to see when we might be able to get him back out in a rehab, but hopefully not too far off.
And then also, like piggybacking,
Yeah.
no pun intended, off the starting pitching conversation here. Just with what you've done with Boyle, you had Seymour there, Joe Rock. How tough has it been having those two kind of, you have like two long relief options, we'll say,
Yeah.
in the bullpen, which kind of shortens up what you've been working with, and did that contribute a little bit maybe to that bullpen slide of just not having enough options to really turn to when guys were slumping?
Yeah, I think, you felt certainly before Baker, and Baker only gave us one outing, and kind of an uncharacteristic one at that. He'll be fine. But I think, earlier in this stretch, I think there are a few things that came into play that I think we probably started to really feel. One, Manny's absence, obviously, we just started to feel that. Kevin Kelly lost time, came back, wasn't quite himself just yet, and so you're kind of putting that together. And then not just Manny, but Hunter Biggie. Those are two guys, two power arms that we saw late last year. We're counting on losing those righties. Kind of they reduced our options from that side a little bit. Obviously, Mason Montgomery from the left side having some of his struggles, as high as we were on him, was just having a tough time finding it. It just, you say to kind of, doing a lot of this, and we're working like heck to get him more up here. But just some inconsistencies combined with having to ask probably a little bit too much over a stretch than you'd like out of any one individual piece out there. Certainly Clev and Pete, when they're going good. So I think it was a combination of those factors that just started to compound. And then, with that, like you're going to lose games over the course of the season. We all know that. Even the best teams are going to lose 60 of them. When you're losing games where your bullpen is all getting worked in a loss, those tend to be a little more costly. Because yes, you're losing the game, but you're also you use a bunch of guys that ideally you use them as little as possible in losses, right? And that's the way Cashie's always managed this thing, and I think is the best way to do it. And you look at these last couple of weeks, like they were worked a lot because we were in position to win games, but unfortunately we didn't get them done, and it just kind of, I think, compounded, and had a hard time getting out of it. So, that's just the way the games went, and they kind of went that way, and we just couldn't quite get the job done. But like I said, I saw Pete reference the goldfish, yeah, the amnesia pill, whatever, but a good time for a little break and a reset, and need to come out tomorrow and show different.
So will Boyle and Seymour still remain in the bullpen for now, moving
Yeah,
into the
so
second half?
coming out of the break, one of the and usually Cash will speak to this, but just the sequencing of availability here, I don't mind talking about it. So Joe and Ian are with us here out of the break as we are, and Cashy and Kyle talked to Joe Boyle before the break about keeping him up. Feel like he's a starter long term. That's our expectation. He has proven the ability to hold his stuff, and sometimes the guys that'll kind of come in and out of their command, it's most helpful to have them carry 5, 6 innings, to live through it rather than putting everything into 3 outs. That being said, they talked to him about a role that, not too dissimilar from what Ras did last year, or what we did with Ras. I'll go back to 21 with him and McHugh, or was it 21, 20, 23? I don't know. Anyway, you guys look it up. We're basically kind of a multi-inning roll out of the pen, where it's not you can put them in a position where you can impact our major league club out of the bullpen, but probably averaging a couple innings an outing, maybe occasionally a third up, maybe occasionally just 3 outs. But you keep them in this multi-inning role that serves as a bridge in the middle to later innings. We've carried roles like that in the past with great success. It seems to kind of optimize the quality and quantity, not just of him, but of the group, not ask too much of anybody, the starters, the relievers, et cetera. So he's excited about that. We'll work him into that here coming out of the break. And with it, if there's a sudden need in the rotation, if he's kind of sitting in that 2 inning space, within a couple of turns, you can have him out to 4 or 5 innings, no problem. So felt like that was the right move for him, given what he's shown, and for the club at this point, and keeps all the options of him being a starter on the table later this year and beyond still there.
And then Seymour?
Yeah, Ian. Yes, thank you. Ian is still up. He was not worked particularly hard, and we'll roll with him here out of the break and just see where it goes. But another one, we're like both those guys. You just look at what they've done in AAA, and you're developing them as starters, and I think that's still the end game. But if there's opportunity to get them up, get them involved, that's something that we're going to continue to try to find. And they've done nice jobs with their opportunities for sure.
Erik,
Thank
the
you.
news of the potential sale of the team came out here in the last few days. I was curious, just in regards to personnel and trades and such like that, will any of that potential news affect how you guys play out these last 2.5, 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to comment on the potentials of anything as we haven't throughout this process, and as it's been recognized, the exclusive negotiations onward. I can say that no, look, business as usual with respect to trying to win games, the way we're trying to do it. And if our team is, in contention for a postseason spot or greater than that, we're going to do what we can to improve their chances. And really, had a draft this a few days ago. We've got a trade deadline in a couple weeks. There's not much time to think about anything other than what's immediately right in front of us, and is whatever's ahead for the franchise. Right? We've talked about it a lot all year. We've had a lot to deal with, back to the storms, everything forward. That each passing day, if we do our job to the best of our ability, then the best outcomes are possible, whatever they may be. And we've stayed very present. Our players have, our staff have, and we're going to continue to operate that way.
You mentioned Biggie. He still a possibility to get back this year, or is that not as likely, or where's that situation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the baseball, kind of sits somewhere secondary, to what he went through, but he's doing well. Need to get an update here, to figure out the rate of intensity and when he can pick up and when he, so on and so forth. So, a return is something that I believe is not out of the question at some point, but probably a step or two, before we can get to really bringing that into focus at this point. That still need to be had here in his recovery.
And then just to clarify, Evan's clarification on Seymour, when he first came up, Cash said he was coverage, not really a lefty reliever per se.
Yeah.
Is that still the case, or do you think you probably need to figure out another lefty reliever, whether it's Monty or someone else?
Yeah, I'm definitely not the manager, so I can push
You
that
could
one
be though. You have
to
the talent.
him. Yeah, yeah. I already feel like I'm covering more ground than I normally do, in terms of the deployment of the group here. But yeah, I think it's probably still the way Cashy described it. But when you go through a stretch the way we had for a few weeks, you saw Cashy the way he managed the game. Engler got a few opportunities in single inning work, did a nice job with them. Um, when there's some struggles, it might shift some opportunities around and just see how people can make the most of it. I think, our thought on Ian is he's still, being stretched out, being a length option is probably what's best for him. But when a need arises, who knows? There might be a spot Friday night where, the middle innings where a lefty is helpful. And Ian's not your traditional left on left type guy either. He's got to change up the way he pitches. Righty lefty. I think he's pretty platoon, agnostic, as some of our righties are as well. So I don't know. There's an opportunity. We've talked, it's like he doesn't have to be held back until there's a need to throw 4 innings. If there's a spot where he's usable, it's shorter than that. He's game for it. He bounces back well, and Cashy, can use him that way if he thinks that's best.
Platoon agnostic. I'll make sure to use that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Eric, another kind of big picture topic with MLB kind of, clarifying that you guys can play postseason games at Steinbrenner. Is that, I guess, of the many things that you do have to worry about, one less thing to worry about?
Yeah, we got to worry about winning games. I mean, I think since that became a story, has coincided with our record turning for the worse. So not that, that's no one, there's no one distracted by that. The guys are going about their work all the right way. But yeah, look, it's nice to have clarity as to how that could play out. Certainly, so it's not some sort of like risk for a lingering distraction of any sort. But it's great, but we need to take care of our business, and that starts tomorrow night.
Under the same category of things you're going to probably say you don't have to worry about, but the extreme amount of road games in the immediate future. I think it's 19 out of 22 after this homestand. Just suck it up and you got to do it.
Yeah, look, it's a year, and I think you just keep the right perspective, right? We're in this situation because of some really, really, unfortunate events that affected a lot of people in this area and well north of here and beyond into multiple states, and just keeping the right perspective. It's baseball, right? Like we're well taken care of. We're well equipped to compete anywhere we need to. Showing up every day and playing baseball, no matter where you are, when it gets this time of year, it gets harder, right? Like guys are worn down. You're not 100%, but it's fine. Our guys know why we're here, and they'll make the most of it. And like we went into this year mindful of kind of the dynamic of the group and making sure that was in a good place. And you brought in people that could make sure that those things don't become issues. The Danny Jansen's, for example, and that Sun Kim, and that's absolutely the case, and they'll be fine. It's an opportunity to play baseball at the highest level. Like I said, we're well taken care of, and whatever happens this year, it's not going to be because of that.
You mentioned Kim. He was okay from that foul ball off the foot the other day.
Yeah, like 3 of them, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Everything came back okay there, so he should be good to go. He's feeling better. Feel for him, but yeah, he should be good to go.
And then one last question for me, Eric. Just when you went through the first losing streak to begin the season, or not really a streak, but just sort of a
Yeah,
stretch there where
yeah,
it wasn't the greatest.
yeah,
You said that you were the makeup of this team was so
yeah.
good that you still felt like, hey, this is a group that can turn it around. Now that they had this awful losing streak entering the trade deadline, do you still feel like this team is connected, doing the same things that they were when they were riding high and are able to kind of upshoot their way into the second half here?
Yeah, it's interesting. I wasn't on the road at all with the team, and so as this is happening, you feel kind of helpless all the time. I'm not playing, so I don't really have that much to do with it. But you feel that much more helpless when you're so removed from it, and focused on the draft and other things at the same time. But it's interesting. I have had a few conversations here at Steinbrenner today with the staff that got in early, and we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. And unprompted, without me asking, they talked about the road trip and that this stretch, how disappointing it was, and how it could really rattle a group. In my mind, I'm thinking, how are they going to be? And the feedback, like I said, without prompting, was like it was very different than even earlier in the year, right? Like I think it was like we're gonna be all right. Like it was everyone. There's consistency of the work, everything that the same early, but I think there's a stronger belief in what this group is capable of now than there was 2 weeks into the season, right? When there was a lot of new, you're breaking in a new ballpark. You didn't have any sort of like team-wide performance validation at that point. You think you're good, but you got to go out and start winning games. Um, the level of play that they hit for a sustained period of time, yeah, it was a proof of concept, I think, in terms of what they're capable of doing. And it seems like for this trip, the feedback just was like they're pretty unflappable, when it came to that stretch, how they handled it and what they believe they're capable of. And I was encouraged to hear that. And that narrative's only as great as how we play tomorrow night and beyond. But I do believe this is a group set it, the chemistry, the camaraderie, the connection, the work ethic, right? Like this is a mentally tough and resilient group of players that I'm very confident from day one would serve them well, no matter what was thrown at them. And ideally, we see another, prime example of that here out of the break.
Is everyone good?
I got one more quick one, if you don't mind, Erik. Just
Do
a
it.
handful of days post draft. Big picture. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah. Feel good. Our Chuck Ritchie, our whole amateur staff, they do a wonderful job. Everybody's draft boards are all a little bit different, obviously, but in terms of how we had things lined up, felt like things broke our way. We were able to select several players, a round or two kind of later than where you thought you might have to go to get them, or you're a player away from things kind of breaking differently often, round over round, and it seemed like things went our way. And I talking kind of afterwards with Chuck Ritchie, Hamilton Marks, some of our staff, you had the opportunity early to get athletes with physical projection, defensive value, contact skill, and good makeup. And I had a series of guys that fit into that type of profile up top that, you never know what's ahead, but if that's your starting foundation, really good outcomes are possible. And we're able to nab several guys that fit into that. And then a heck of a lot of pitching on the second day. And, yeah, you hope just a few of those guys break through. But all in all, really pleased with it, really appreciative of the staff's work. And we'll let you know how they did in 5 years, 6 years, yeah, as it goes. If we learn too soon, it's usually not good. But no, really nice job by them, and at least at the outset here, an outcome we're really pleased with and happy about.